The question I get more than any other is not which brand to buy. It is this one. What have you got in your own kitchen? It is a fair question, and it is the right one to ask. A man will tell you all sorts of things about what you should do. Then you go and look at what he actually did with his own money, and sometimes those two things do not match. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 5 appliances standing in my house right now. Not a list of what I think is best. What is actually there. And I will tell you straight away that 2 of the 5 are not what I would recommend to you. And by the end, you will understand why. And I think it might be the most useful thing I have said all year. My name is Richard Nakamura, and I fixed appliances in other people's homes for 30 years. Now, before I open my own kitchen door, let me tell you what the rest of the trade says, because it turns out somebody actually asked. A review outfit went and interviewed 7 different appliance repair companies and put them the same question, which is, what do you have at home? 4 of the 7 named Whirlpool as one of the most reliable, and some of them named Maytag and KitchenAid alongside it, which, as you know by now, is the same corporation. But it was one shop in New Hampshire that gave the answer that has stayed with me, because it is the whole trade in a single sentence. They said they suggest Whirlpool, and I am quoting them, not because they are better, but because everyone will service them, including us. Read that again, because there is something uncomfortable in it, and I want to be the one to say it out loud. A repairman does not buy the best machine. He buys the machine that is easiest to keep alive. Those are 2 different things, and almost nobody admits it. The finest engineering in the world is worth nothing to me on a Sunday if the part is 3 weeks out and nobody within 60 miles has seen one before. When you ask a technician what he owns, you are not getting his opinion on engineering. You are getting his opinion on survival. Keep that in your head because it explains everything in my kitchen. Number 1, the refrigerator, plain. Freezer on top, no dispenser in the door, no screen, no application on my telephone, and the ice maker, such as it is, lives up in the freezer where the cold already is. There is nothing clever about it, and that is the entire point. I have told you that the ice and water dispenser is the single most repaired feature in this category, and that a screen on the front lasts 3 to 7 years on a machine that runs 15. My refrigerator cannot have either of those failures because it does not have either of those things. It cost a fraction of what the machines at eye level cost, and the only reason it was hard to buy is that I had to walk past 4 aisles of nicer-looking ones to get to it. I will tell you the honest cost of that decision too, because there is one. We fill an ice tray at the sink. My wife would rather have the dispenser, and she has said so more than once, and she is not wrong to want it. That is a real thing you give up, and I am not going to pretend it is nothing. I simply decided that the most repaired part in the category was not going in my door, and I have had to live with being the one who decided that. Number 2, the range, gas, with knobs across the front and a needle thermostat, the plain, freestanding kind. If you watched my video about stoves, you already know the model I would pick, and it is what I have. Behind a black glass touch panel, there is a control board, and when that board dies, the whole stove stops, and on an older machine, the part is often not made anymore. My range has switches. A switch costs $30, and any supply house in the country has one on the shelf. I will admit the thing people always ask about. No, it does not have a self-clean button. And no, I do not miss it, because I have spent a career being called out in November to machines that ran that cycle in October and blew the thermal fuse. I clean mine warm with a damp rag and a little baking soda, and it takes about 10 minutes twice a year. Number 3, the dishwasher, and here I owe you a confession. I have a Bosch, and I stand behind that completely. It is quiet, it cleans properly, the tub is steel, and Consumer Reports has it taking every one of the top 10 places in the whole category. But I have spent 3 videos now telling you that Miele builds the finest dishwasher there is. Designed for 20 years. Parts guaranteed in writing long after the model is discontinued. All of that is true, and I meant every word of it. I do not own one. 2 reasons, and both of them are honest. The first is the money, and I am not going to dress that up. The second matters more, and it is the one I want you to take away. Miele wants their own trained people working on their machines, and the nearest authorized service to me is a good long drive, which means that when it goes wrong, either I am waiting on somebody or I am the man opening it, and the parts are harder for me to get than the ones for a Bosch. The best machine in the category is not the best machine for my address. That sentence is worth more to you than any brand ranking I could give you, and it works in reverse too. If you live 20 minutes from a Miele service center and you have the money, buy the Miele, and you will be right and I will be jealous. Number 4, the washing machine. A speed queen, the plain classic top loader with the agitator standing up in the middle and a real transmission underneath. It looks like something out of a basement in 1985, and that is the highest compliment I can pay a machine. It is tested for something like 10,400 cycles, which its maker calls roughly 25 years of ordinary use. There is no screen on it. There is nothing on it to fail except the parts that do the work. Here is the honest side of that one. It is not gentle. It is not quiet. It uses more water than the machines the government would rather you bought. And if you have delicate things, you will want to think about that. What it does is wash work clothes properly and keep going. And in my house, that was the trade I wanted to make. And number 5, and this is the first of the 2 I would not recommend to you. My dryer is more than 20 years old. It is not a brand I would put on any list I gave you today. If you came to me tomorrow and said you were buying a dryer, I would not send you to that badge. It is still in my house. It works. It has been repaired twice, both times by me, both times cheaply. Here's the point I most want you to understand, because I think a lot of people take advice from videos like mine the wrong way. Everything I tell you about which brand to buy applies at exactly one moment, which is the moment you are standing in a shop with your money out. It is not an instruction to go home and rip out a machine that is working perfectly well, because a man on the internet did not put its name on a list. If I threw out a functioning dryer to go and buy the one I recommend, I would be doing the precise opposite of everything I have ever told you. The greenest, cheapest, most sensible machine in any house is nearly always the one already sitting in it and still running. So that is my 5. A plain refrigerator, a range with knobs, a Bosch dishwasher, a Speed Queen washer, and a dryer old enough to vote. Now I have a confession to make, and it is worse than the dryer. In my video about the appliances I would never buy, the second thing on my list was the microwave that sits above your range and pretends to be a vent hood. I explained that most of them do not vent outside at all. They blow the steam and the grease back into the room through a filter. The ones that do vent manage 200 to 400 cubic feet a minute, when people who do ventilation for a living will tell you that you want 600. There is one above my range right now. It came with the house. And to do it properly, I would need a real hood and a duct cut through the wall and a man to come and fit it and all of that to replace something that today does its job after a fashion. It stays until it dies. And when it dies, I will do it right, and I will not buy another one. I am telling you that because I would rather you heard it from me than caught it in the background of a video, and because it is the same lesson as the dryer. Advice is for the day you are choosing. It is not a verdict on the house you already live in. Now, 2 things worth knowing before you go, because they are the ones that cost people real money, and neither is my opinion. The first is the compressor warranty, and I want you to look closely at this one the next time a salesman leans on it. Nearly every brand now advertises 5 or 10 years on the compressor, and it sounds like protection. Read what it covers. It covers the part. In most cases, it does not cover the labor. Now look at what that means when it happens. A refrigerator compressor is $200 to $400 as a part. Getting it replaced runs $700 to $1,250 all in, because the man has to come out at $100 or more an hour on top of a service call. So your 10-year warranty hands you the cheapest third of the job and leaves you the rest. That is not nothing, and I am not calling it a fraud. But it is not what most people think they are buying when they hear 10 years. The second is bigger than any brand, and it is the reason a video like this needs to exist at all. In 2021, the Federal Trade Commission put a report in front of Congress called Nixing the Fix about the ways manufacturers make their products harder to repair. They looked at adhesives used where a screw would do, at limits placed on who can buy spare parts, at diagnostic software that independent shops cannot get. Then they looked at the reasons the manufacturers gave for all of it, mostly safety and security, and they found scant evidence for those reasons. They said plainly that the explanations were not well-founded, and afterwards they warned the industry they would go after it. That is not a repairman on the internet with a grievance. That is the government of the United States putting it in writing. So let me leave you with the honest version of what this whole video is about. If you want to know what to buy the plainest machine that does what you actually need from a brand the shop in your town can service, and check before you sign that they can get the parts. That is what is in my house, and it is what I would tell my own family. But if you already own something that works, keep it. Clean it, listen to it, fix it when it is cheap to fix. My mother had a word for choosing the thing you can keep and mend over the thing you throw away. Motai nai. There is a 20-year-old dryer and a microwave I have publicly told you not to buy sitting in my house tonight, and both of them are still working, and that is not a contradiction. That is the whole point. Tell me down in the comments what is in your kitchen, and specifically tell me about the one you would not recommend to anybody but have not replaced. Because I suspect nearly every one of you has one, and it is the most honest thing anybody says on this channel. I read every single one. My grandmother used to tell me about motinai. It means nothing good should ever be wasted. Not the thing in your hands, and not the knowing of how to keep it.